because we talk about at times, and if you think this is an idiotic take, it's Dan's. Okay, that's what I'm going to say.
Yep.
We will say that the salary cap is not real. Now, I can see the look on your face because I know this. I take it you don't agree with that.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't.
So if I was to say that was Dan's take, would it be Dan is right or Dan is wrong? Let's see.
Where's the camera?
There.
Capital W.
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus Podcast, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates, I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, especially this video, because Mike, this was huge.
We did it. Guys, we got him.
So
we've
been wanting to get Brandon Beane on the podcast. So, and I talked to him, and listen, we get to interview Brandon in circumstances, whether it's during the year, before the draft, all those things. This is different because this is our podcast. So I went through the bills and said, hey, can we make this work? And we love our podcast studio.
We do.
And it just wasn't going to work for the Bills to do that. So we're like, Brandon, can we do this? So we went through the bills, and then they said, hey, listen, Brandon likes cruising around the area here in Pittsburgh. So
wait. We know somebody who has a house in Pittsburgh. That's
okay,
crazy.
so I live right across
that?
the street from Fisher. Literally there. I walk to
What
camp
a flex.
every day. Well,
You
come
know that
on.
mansion
Yeah,
right over there?
It's not a mansion. But
It's a nice house.
we like
Great
the
patio.
house, and we're in a good spot. And so Bills were like, Brandon's all in. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
A few moments later.
All right, Brandon, thanks for coming over and be part of Buffalo Plus today.
Appreciate you having me over. I like the short commute over here.
Just a quick walk over here to talk about it. All right, let's talk about your team. You had said earlier in the spring, you used the word transition for your team, for the franchise. Now that we're into the summer, closing in on the season, do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, every team has some kind of transition. I think the transition that I've been referring to is, probably more the guys that have been some staple leaders of our team, some foundational pieces that have helped us get this thing from a team that, found a way to get in the playoffs in 17 and 18, or we missed in 18, but then 19, not win the division, but a solid team to a team that people thought had a chance to win the title, whatever year you pick. And so, there's never the perfect time for any, you don't want to lose some of those guys, but the business side, the age side, all those things, they come to fruition. And this year just happened to be probably a bigger year of transition.
Yeah, we'll gas you up a little bit. The back of your baseball card, it's pretty nice. Since you took over in Buffalo, 73-46, 4 division titles, 6 playoff appearances. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. How would you grade yourself as the general manager of the Bills so far?
Oh, that's hard.
They make me ask all the tough questions.
I know. Dan, the first thing, I'm going to just think of the things could I have done better, or, could we have signed a different player? Could we have,
You still do that?
You're down to, you always, I wear myself out. I look back through drafts and through free agent periods, and so I'm my own worst critic, C-.
Wow.
C-?
Yeah.
You found Josh Allen.
Well, that was an A+. But my average is probably C-.
All right, we know everyone has a ton of opinions about this team, and we have our podcast, of course, but I want to know from your perspective, what do you think we, as the media, kind of get wrong about assessing this team, your team?
I think, I don't know if wrong is the right thing. I think sometimes there's unknowns, and we were talking about before we went on the air, the Terrell Bernard a year ago, as Tremaine Edmonds left and, the quarterback of the defense, when we drafted a Terrell Bernard, you see his smarts, his instincts, all that, and he got one chance in the Jets game, when Milano was out, so he wasn't even playing Tremaine's spot, wasn't probably as natural of a fit for him. Not that he couldn't do it, but it was a small sample. And he was a rookie. So to just, I can't stand up here, or Sean's not going to stand up here and say, you can go ahead and mark it down. This guy,
no, make our job easier.
You know what I mean? So I think that's probably the hardest part, and I get it. Nothing is certain until they get out there and do it, mesh with their teammates. And so how we open this thing up, we probably have some transitional spots. You're talking about safety. It's quite a vast group of mostly new players, but some that have been in the building in reserve roles now that Micah and Jordan are gone.
You signed Josh that contract. The day you signed it, or he signed it, did you just realize that eventually some players that haven't reached his level are going to be making more money than him? Is that sort of the assumed thing almost because these contracts keep going up? And if that's the case, is this just an ongoing thing in terms of Josh with his deal that you will be thinking about how do we make this right for him and obviously what's best for the franchise when you see, the younger guys like Jordan Love and all them getting these huge deals?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Mike, the quarterback position, if you look at all the other positions, guys will get slotted in kind of where you and his representatives come to an agreement of where he slots in at wide receiver, tackle, running back, whatever it is. And so I think we tried our best to do that with Josh. We did not make him the top paid guy at the time. We made him number 2, and there's been a transition to the next man up almost at that position, by some teams, and that's their choice, to do that. It's just different. It's interesting that one position, it hasn't really necessarily fallen, that way. People have just trumped them because they're a year or two later than Mahomes or Josh or Burrow or however you got them, kind of ranked.
So is there anything you need to do in terms of, look, your quarterback has been your franchise guy. Is it just that it's going to go until the period when there needs to be a move made on the contract, or is there dialogue maybe as it goes along with his representatives?
Yeah, I mean, we always got a really good relationship with Patrick Collins, who works for CA. It's he's a first-class guy, and not that you expect anything different from somebody that Josh is going to let represent him, but we've had great dialogue with them even before we did the first deal and since then. And you do have to talk about these things because it's an ever-changing landscape where they're going, and people try and predict all the time, but until you see it happen, I mean, look, COVID sent the cap back, and we did him right out of that too. Everyone was still a little antsy, filling out is the cap truly going to continue to go up, or is something else going to send the cap back? That had never happened, and so we'll continue those dialogues with those guys through the year, and future years, and if and when we make a tweak or change or whatever to his deal, we'll still continue to do that because the position is going to continue to evolve with where these deals go, and a lot of that'll be how much does the cap continue to increase.
That makes sense. And you said earlier that when you picked Josh, you gave it an A+. I mean, the way he's been able to represent the team, lead his teammates, the level of play. Now, coming out, we all knew that Josh was viewed as a project, but could you honestly have imagined it could go as well as it has gone?
I mean, again, we really felt, and people, they might not believe me or understand, we really felt confident. I think if you even just go back to the press conference, when I walked into that room, I was very confident. Now, some of you people in there made me try and feel less confident about it with some of the questions, why we didn't select a different player, or what about this and that with Josh's game. But, if the one thing I'll never forget is I was trying to explain to you that this guy is Buffalo. And beyond that, his intelligence, obviously his physical, God-given ability, the way he can elude. People just never talked about his athletic ability. They didn't. And and the many things that he did at Wyoming to help get that team to where they were. Because when he got injured, I was at the game he got injured. And when he got injured, they stunk the rest of that game, and then they lost whatever the next 2 games, and he came back for the bowl game against Central Michigan. And you could just see the difference in that team. And I know that's not the NFL, but could I say it would, he would be as great and declare that? We were talking about that earlier. Like, you can't 100% predict anything, but we really felt good about him in our system, in our program, and all the things he was going to bring.
Was there a moment early on then that it clicked for you of like, oh wow, this could be something special?
I think that 2019 season, is year 2. Like, we were still trying to run the ball, not overload him. He's still a young player, year 2, but there were throws in some of those games that we needed. Maybe he didn't play the greatest, but in some big moments, I think we were playing Cincinnati at home, and he made a throw. We were down and
drive late,
and had a drive late. I think it was to Dawson. Maybe made a big play. And
Frank Gore gave me that. Frank Gore had a touchdown in that game too.
Yeah, and just there were some games like that.
Yeah.
In 19 was 19 the year we went to Dallas and won on Thanksgiving.
That was Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
the 4th down.
That was the quarterback sneak in that. But that game, I know we were underdogs. I don't know what it was, but I think that told a lot of people around the country what we already felt like. This guy's a dog playing quarterback.
We were talking about it just before you got here. The fact that Josh has been exactly what this team has needed. It felt like at every step of the way. Team in transition early on, trying to figure out those pieces. Then you get the number 1 wide receiver, you get Diggs, and all of a sudden he becomes this, takes everything to the next level. Now it's also different because there's now so many new pieces around him. And you talk about the leaders and the captains that you've lost. What do you want to see from him this year with all the new pieces? Or do you want him to just keep being Josh? Or is there more put on his plate this year because of all the transition?
I think he's like anybody. We had Luke Kuechly, the other side of the ball in Carolina. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things about their leadership styles that remind me of each other. Like early on in Carolina, we had, on the defensive side, we had a Thomas Davis, we had a Charles Johnson, some guys who were established players. And so Luke came in and, by year 2, the guys were like, hey, it's your defense, like lead. But he did not want to. He was just such a good. He did not want to step on toes. And even though you'd tell him like, Luke, speak up at halftime. If you need to rip somebody's ass, you rip it.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't. He just didn't want to do it. But over time, as the team became younger, and the defense became younger, it became easier. And I think that's just where you've seen Josh year after year. It's just, all of a sudden every year he's getting a year older. And some of the older guys are departing, and you're infusing youth or new veterans on the team. Yeah. This is how we do it, and so I think naturally, you'll see another year where he may be a little more vocal with his teammates, and not only on the offensive side, but even with some of the defensive leaders we've lost, even over there.
Yeah.
All right, so the official policy of the Buffalo Plus channel is that we do not believe Josh Allen is overrated. So that makes we're not idiots.
We are not idiots. No idiots here.
We do talk about something that you may think you're idiots because we talk about at times, and if you think this is an idiotic take, it's Dan's. Okay, that's what I'm going to say.
Yep.
We'll say the salary cap.
And he is a Braves fan, so.
Yeah, Braves fans here, sitting in the middle.
That's it. We will say that the salary cap is not real. Now, I can see the look on your face because I know this.
Derek's back there laughing too. He knows where this is going.
I take it you don't agree with that.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't real. I wish it wasn't real. But I do appreciate you guys not thinking that he's overrated.
Yes, okay. We got one. We're
I'm
one
not
out of
sure everyone in Rochester that works your job feels that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys.
So here's the thing about it. When we say it's not real, we obviously know that it is real and it is impactful. But there are ways to work around, as you have done on many times.
Yeah.
Would you give us a little bit of that you can work around? And some teams, like the Bills, have done a good job of working around high salaries and the restraints that the cap puts on you.
Yeah, I think it's a balance. I think you see through 32 teams, you see all sorts of ways to do it. You have some teams that they have maxed out the credit card for years, and they're going to continue to find ways to do that and be as creative as they can. But there's also that balance of when it blows up, because you've continued to max out that card. And so you can do that. That is a way you can do. And I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. I think you got to do how you see it. And as I've told, you guys when I've gone into the media room to talk, how aggressive you guys are being, I truly mean it. I'd never want to walk into a year and it's Josh Allen and a bunch of dudes that look like us out there playing football that we can afford because we are far over the cap.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jenna, you'd be a great wide receiver.
Yes. Yep.
She's got wingspan.
I got wingspan. That's about it.
skills. You get what I'm saying?
100%.
And so it's a balance because we will restructure deals, work things. I mean, even this year in transition, we've gotten younger in areas, but we've stretched. We could have closed the purse a long time ago, but we've still tried to add guys. I mean, a Smoot that we got later in the year, he wasn't wasn't just minimum guys. We're a year ago we obviously did it with Leonard Floyd in June. And so if we feel it's a piece that can really make a difference, then and we need to convert a guy or two, but we also want to try and limit how many years we got to walk into and be 40 to 60 million over just to get into the league year.
So if I was to say that was Dan's take, would it be Dan is right or Dan is wrong? Let's see.
Where's the camera?
Capital
W.
That's my golf partner here.
That's
too.
right. Oh, by the way, why he just mentioned that. How was Dan as a golf partner? He says you're pretty demanding when you're out there.
He did a good job. They were I was making them nervous.
There was nothing better that would. You're like, hey, it's 175 to the pin. It's pins in the back. So, let's just hit, the 168 shots. Brandon, I'm just going to try and hit it, and hope it hits the green. He's sticking it 10 feet to the left. He's like, I pulled it. Holy cow. I would love to have my misses be 10 feet.
We had fun. That was a good day. It was a team effort.
Team effort.
Yeah, team effort.
I don't know about the golf for you, Dan.
You were with Sean.
Yeah, I was, I did
He
not
said you
play
were
well.
coachable.
I was coachable. I'll take it.
That was
the takeaway?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Jenna's coachable. I love it.
Honestly, that's probably about right. You mentioned kind of the salary cap stuff, and one of the things that fascinates me about your job in particular is the human element of having to make cuts. There's been so many players this past offseason, the Mitch Morses, the Tre'Davious Whites. How do you do your job and kind of handle yourself making some of those cuts or talking with players that have meant so much? How do you balance the business side and the human side too?
That is the hardest part. It truly is. I mean, as hard as there are decisions and that you make every day or things that come on your plate, guys that have done so much for basically, I look at it for me and my family, because we've had success and have allowed me to sign extensions and stay here and keep other people employed, is because of some of the names you mentioned, and so that is what's hard, and you do try and find that balance. And I think there's different ways to do this job. I know some people do it and they just try and keep it strictly business, and that's not who I am. I want to know who your family is. I want to know who your kids are. I want my wife to know them, and so, I mean, there's sometimes, I've given her a heads up. Hey, I know your friends, or you guys go to Bible study, or you do this. This is coming down the pipe, a day or two ahead. It makes it really hard. It is human, but the way I know to do it is just be as straight and honest as you can. And it doesn't make it easier, but I feel over time, even if they were not happy with the decision at the time, I feel like history says that over time they understand it was a business and that it wasn't personal. And I would say 95% of those we go on to still have great relationships, whether they're on other teams or post-career.
Yeah.
How do you balance expectations? You talk about the balance there. How do you balance the expectations of, say, a rookie? You have a guy like Josh where it's like, you pretty early on you knew he's the guy. Dalton comes in, pretty early on you're thinking this guy's it. Then you have guys like Kyer maybe, and even going on to Keon. Mm-hmm. How do you manage expectations of a rookie while you're trying to do your job? Because you're also kind of playing three-dimensional chess, thinking like down the road, like where, I'm not saying where do you right now pencil Keon in, but how do you balance all those expectations from your job?
Yeah, it is hard, and you're right. Some rookies come in and they've got a big learning curve.
Yeah.
Some off the field too, like you're talking about Kyer, who was 21 when we took him.
Sure.
Keon was technically 20. He turned 21 since. And then you've got guys that you've drafted. Dalton, was older than that, not a 21-year-old, been through more life transition. And so we all mature at different ages on and off the field. What are they walking into? Who are they competing with at their position? And then again, some have played in certain systems in college, and maybe this is a huge difference for them. Some of them, hey, this is just a continuation of what you're doing. We're going to use you exactly the way, I'm just making this up, but we're going to use you exactly the way Utah used you or whatever. And so, and then like anything, this game, like golf, like anything, if things are going well for you early, guess what? You're getting confidence and you're playing with it. If they don't, and it is harder. These guys that are drafted in the first round or second round, everyone's expectations, right? And most of them probably put more on themselves knowing where they are. And I got to make a play. And you're trying to tell them, don't press, let it come to you. Easier said than done. But we try our best, Dan, to just keep encouraging these guys, stay ready. If you're not starting week 1 or week 3 or whatever, your number's going to get called. And be ready. And you're right. AJ Epinesa was a guy who came in during COVID and was transitioning from a weight thing.
Right.
He was 280 at Iowa.
Also a crazy way of life.
Yeah.
Like, what a way to come into the league in all that.
And so you're away from your family. It's COVID, all that stuff. We're doing all these rules. I think that hurt, some guys like that. So everybody's got their own situation. We try and work with them, use all the things that we have at One Bills Drive, and just help them get there, even if it's not year one.
Is it tough to have the patience, though, when it seems like it's live or die every single week in the NFL? It's not for long. Is it tough at times to remind yourself to have patience with some of these young guys?
Naturally it is, but at the same time, you thought enough to invest. We're talking about high picks here.
Sure.
You thought enough to invest, and so why would you cut that short? Even some guys, it is a huge transition from college football to pro football. It really is. Some guys, it's not that big of a jump. It's just like going to a new news station or whatever it is. For others, it's a massive leap from where they've been or what they've been through, and so it just makes sense as long as they are doing everything in their power. They're being a pro, they're showing up, they're staying late, they're asking the right questions. Those are the ones that, hey, I'm here. We're going to get there. We're going to keep doing it. Yeah. I know it hasn't been perfect so far, but you keep doing. And I think Kyer's a great example. And as we're a few days into camp, but I think he's started well and he's had some ups and downs, but I like where he's at, and I think he's trending very well for us.
So you draft the guys. That's what you and your staff do, and you turn them over to the coaching staff, right? And they got to play. And it's you and Sean together. You guys, if you go back to when you came in with Sean at that time, how has your relationship with Sean evolved? I mean, you're in 2 high-pressure jobs at the top of this organization trying to win a Super Bowl. You've known each other, but over these years with the successes and when you fell a little bit short, how's your relationship evolved?
Yeah, it's believe me, we're very competitive people. And so,
no way.
Yeah, so just like with these players that we were talking about, when you got to move on from them, sometimes you got to have very difficult, discussions. And maybe I think a player should be playing. Maybe he doesn't think he's ready, and and we air it out. But, the thing is, I know that Sean and I both have the Pegula's best interest. And there's no side motives here, anything for him or anything for me. And so I think we both do our best to hammer it out behind closed doors. If you're never going to, it's just like your wife. You didn't want orange seats. You wanted different colors because it looked like meth.
Shout out Jenny.
Yeah.
But Jenny, don't watch
hopefully I
that
didn't get you in trouble.
I'm already in trouble.
Yeah. But, in all seriousness, and she doesn't watch the podcast probably, right? No.
Oh, no.
She hears enough of her mic.
Because I talk too much.
She hears Mike talk enough at home. She doesn't need to turn on YouTube.
But, yeah, I think you just, if you're honest, straightforward with each other, you work through it. And sometimes they're like anything. Sometimes you just got to agree to disagree. But I think you're right. These are 2 high-pressure jobs, and we're going into season 8. I think that says a lot about the respect we have for each other and the admiration. And we both have huge chips on our shoulder like 17 does to bring this team a title, and that's our main focus.
Yeah. We appreciate your time. On one last thing I wanted to ask you. You just set it up for coming into this season. What's success to you? Listen, we were looking at, since you guys have been here together, it's 2 Brady's, 3 Mahomes championships. It's just the way it's gone. There's been the top of the top, and you guys are right there. What's success in the 2024 into 5 season for you guys?
Yeah, we would love to, win another division. We'd love to do that. We've been able to do it, the last few years. Yeah. And, that's not going to be easy. The division keeps getting harder and harder. And then get ourselves into the playoffs and give ourselves a chance. And you would love to be healthy and playing good football. And if we do that, that's all you can ask for, is put yourself in a position to make a run. And again, the ultimate success is holding that trophy. It really is. And if you don't do that, you're always going to be, just like we've done every year since we've been here, since we haven't, we're always looking at where do we come up short. And knowing us, if we were able to win it, we'd still come back and say we won it, but, we could have been better here, or we need to tweak this or that. It's just, the kind of way it rolls.
Yeah, you'd take your chance on that, though, being able to say that, right?
That'd be great. Your words to God's ears, Mike.
That's it. All right. Well, again, thanks again. And Dan was wrong. That's what Jenna and I are going to take out of this, because we like to give him his shot when he get a chance.
Love that.
Thanks for your time to be with us, and we look forward to covering the team all year.
Sounds good. Appreciate y'all.
A few moments later.
Yeah, I agree with almost everything Brandon had to say. That will get clipped for quite some time.
Yes.
Forever.
We might need to print out a photo.
My only thing I wish I would have said was ask Brandon, he's been on a lot of big podcasts. He's been on Part of My Take. He's been on the Greenlight Pod. He goes on Pat McAfee Show. What's your favorite Bills channel? I think he would have said Buffalo Plus.
He did. He told me that. Or at least that's what I thought he said.
No,
so
I
I'm going to go
I
with
heard him
that.
say that.
I heard him say that, too.
Buffalo
Just
Plus
really cool
at
for
the top.
Brandon. Appreciate that with the Bills.
Yeah.
They tweeted it out, the picture of us just hanging out in Mike's backyard.
Yeah.
It
it was
Complimented
fun.
the patio.
Yeah, got the patio done.
Great patio.
Not specifically for you, Brandon, but it worked out pretty well.
The funniest part behind the scenes is we're waiting for him to show up, and we're just sitting inside Mike's house.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're sitting there going over our questions, and you see somebody walking through the side of around Mike's house. It's like, oh, he's here.
And by the way, they went to the wrong side in terms of that's the side we haven't done anything, so it's kind of crappy over there, and the fence doesn't open right. Yeah. So the other side's okay, and I was going to actually have them come through the house, but they just walked in, cruised into the back, relaxed as can be.
I feel like that's classic media, though, is the hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, it's time to go. But I thought Brandon's answers were really interesting, and I felt like a lot of the things that we asked him about, maybe we haven't heard in that way, and so I just, it was really a unique moment, especially for the channel.
Comment in what you would grade Brandon Beane as the general manager. I thought a C- was definitely a little bit harsh on himself. That's how a lot of these football guys are. Is they're their toughest critics. It was funny when he was like, Jen's like, you you drafted Josh Allen. He's like, that was an A+ one.
Yeah.
That was a home run. But again, his perspective of always thinking about the ones that got away, the players he didn't sign, things like that. And then I loved his comparison of Josh being a leader.
Yeah.
And comparing it to Luke Kuechly and comparing it to Luke didn't necessarily always want to step up and be that vocal leader, but they kind of needed to nudge him. I think that's what Josh needs to do a little bit this year. Ease him along as that leader. And we've talked about it, going from the fun guy making the jokes to, hey, defense, offense, you're the guy.
And it makes sense when you think about it in the context that Beane talked about of now a lot of these guys are younger. They are newer. And Josh adapting and saying, hey, this is what we want out of Bills football. So I think it's them expecting more as his role continues to grow, and also the just natural process of this team is built around you. Process. Hashtag process.
Yeah. I asked him about the relationship with he and Sean McDermott, and I thought it was great. I mean, he did. They are highly competitive guys in high-pressure jobs, and it can get tough. Like he said, like we've had, moments where it's back and forth, right? I mean, if you think about it, Brandon's putting the team together with input from Sean and the coaches. But it's Brandon's team, right? I mean, he's the general manager. But then you turn it over to the coach, and they work, and they've had so much success. But the way they've lost basically in every year has been tough to take, right? Tough loss last year, the Cincinnati game the year before, the incredible 13-second game where there's pressure. And that could break a team and break an organization. I don't sense that with these two.
Nope.
They're different people.
They're
no
linked.
question.
They're linked.
They are linked. Brandon hadn't been perfect, and neither is Sean.
And that isn't always the case with every head coach and GM.
Yeah.
They came in pretty much together.
Yeah.
And they have, highs and lows of it so far. Haven't reached the highest high, but again, tons of success. But along that success, there have been failures where I'm sure they both looked in the mirror, looked at each other, looked at the person across from them to see what needs to get fixed.
Now, we wanted to take a bigger picture look at this when we interviewed Brandon. Maybe not as many specific questions like what happened on Tuesday at camp. And I thought, Jenna, your question to him about the way you handle moving on from players, I thought showed a lot of who Brandon Beane is when they've had to do that in their time in Buffalo.
Just says media near full.
Yep, we got wrap up. We got like 4 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know how long we
Do you want
had.
me to just say that again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jenna, I thought your question, as we thought bigger picture in this podcast to get answers out of Brandon from the way he operates as a general manager, when you asked about moving on from players, and there were some big names that he had to move on from, how he handled it, I thought that was really something.
Yeah, because we do forget that this is the human
People.
element of the job, and especially this past offseason where they did move on from so many players that were mainstays in Buffalo. That's why it felt so important to ask that, because I think sometimes it's like, oh, they had to make this cut and they made this cut and they made this move and they did that. But especially in a smaller market like Buffalo and how
Families.
Connected he is to so many of these players, his family as well. That is the real aspect of the job that I was curious, because that's really tough to approach no matter who you are.
Yep.
Yeah,
Totally
you
agree.
hear the stories about, I got a text or I read it on TV on a bottom line. That's not Brandon Beane's way. That's not the Bills' way. I think players, like he said, even when they disagree, I think they appreciate the honesty and the personal touch.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Thank you again to Brandon.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Bills helping
Yeah.
set
Derek
that up.
Staff as
Boyko from the
well.
team. So, it was great.
It was a lot of fun. We always appreciate it. So please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, as well as share this
Wherever
interview.
you listen.
Wherever you listen.
And remember, Dan was wrong with a capital
W.
And that comes from Big Baller
We're going to put that
Beane.
picture in the Louvre.
I agree with a lot of what Brandon said. A lot of it.
So did I. No, I'm kidding. All right. For Dan, Mike, I'm Jenna. We'll catch you next time here on the Buffalo Plus podcast presented by Connors and Ferris.